It was a cold morning on the naval base in San Diego, the kind of morning that carries the scent of salt, metal, and memories. The fog hung low over the water, and ships sat in quiet pride like sleeping giants. The rhythmic echo of boots on pavement broke the silence as sailors moved to their posts. Amid the bustle of disciplined chaos, one man stood out, not because of his uniform, but because of the weight he carried in his eyes. His name was Daniel Brooks. He wasn't supposed to be there that day, not as a soldier, but as a single father, just trying to pick up his little boy from the daycare on base. Daniel wore a simple gray sweatshirt, sleeves rolled up, hands rough from years of field work. His eyes told a story that few could read, eyes that had seen loss, loyalty, and loneliness. He had once worn a uniform that meant everything to him. Once, not long ago, he had commanded men, faced the impossible, and carried the burden of silence that comes after the battlefield goes quiet. But those days were behind him, or so he thought. He was standing near the playground waiting for his son Ethan, a 5-year-old with wide blue eyes and a heart as big as the ocean. The boy ran toward him, laughing as he clutched a tiny toy jet in his hand. "Daddy, look, I'm flying!" Ethan yelled, lifting the toy high. Daniel knelt, caught his son in a hug that was both strong and fragile. For a moment, nothing else mattered, but fate has a strange way of testing those who have already been broken. A group of SEAL officers passed by, their laughter echoing down the walkway. Among them was Admiral Reed, a man of power, prestige, and presence. He was respected by all, feared by many. He had seen countless faces on this base, but Daniel's rugged posture and calm silence caught his eye. Reed walked over, half amused, half curious, unaware of the storm he was about to awaken. "Hey there, buddy," Reed said with a smirk, stopping near Daniel. "You look like you belong in uniform. What's your rank, soldier?" His tone was light, teasing, the kind of joke senior officers often made to civilians or retired men around base. The other SEALs chuckled behind him. Daniel stood slowly, his eyes steady, his son clutching his hand. For a heartbeat, he said nothing. Then, with quiet composure, he replied, "Major General, retired." The laughter stopped. Reed's smirk vanished. His face froze, like he'd been struck by lightning. The other SEALs looked at each other in disbelief. There was no sarcasm in Daniel's tone, no pride, no need to impress. Just truth, simple and heavy. Admiral Reed straightened instantly, his throat tightening. The man in front of him, and the one he had joked with, outranked him. The weight of that realization sank in like a punch to the gut. "Sir," Reed began, his voice faltering, but Daniel raised a hand gently. "Relax, Admiral," he said softly. "I'm not here for ranks anymore. Just here for my boy." Reed swallowed hard. There was a flicker of recognition in his eyes, a spark of memory. "Daniel Brooks," he whispered, barely audible. The name hit him like a wave. It was a name whispered in the corners of briefing rooms, written in classified reports, and engraved in the hearts of those who'd fought alongside him. Daniel Brooks, the man who led the Black Falcon unit in Afghanistan. The man who pulled an entire platoon out under enemy fire when everyone else had given up hope. The man who lost his wife while he was overseas, yet stayed in command until every one of his men made it home. Reed remembered the story. Everyone did. Brooks was a legend, the kind that didn't make headlines because real heroes rarely do. As Reed stepped back, the others straightened up, saluting out of instinct and respect. Daniel nodded faintly, not as a superior, but as a man who'd seen too much of war to crave reverence anymore. "At ease, gentlemen," he said quietly. "Those days are long gone." But they weren't gone, not really. They lived in the shadows of his mind, in the empty chair at his dining table, in the framed photo of a woman with kind eyes who'd waited for him until the end. Daniel's wife Claire had been his anchor. When cancer took her while he was deployed, something inside him broke. He resigned soon after, choosing fatherhood over the battlefield. The medals gathered dust. The uniform stayed folded, but every night he told Ethan stories, not of war but of courage, love, and honor. Reed couldn't shake the guilt of his careless joke. That night he looked up Daniel's record, and what he found left him speechless. Commendations, rescue missions, covert operations. One mission report mentioned that Brooks had personally shielded a wounded SEAL, Reed's own brother, during a firefight years ago. He had never known who saved his brother's life until that moment. The next day, Reed went to Daniel's modest home just off base. He found him fixing a bicycle in the yard while Ethan played nearby. The Admiral, usually so confident, hesitated before approaching. He saluted first, something he'd never done for anyone off duty. Daniel looked up, surprised, then shook his head. "Admiral, you don't have to—" "I do," Reed interrupted, "because I owe you more than an apology. You saved my brother's life. I never got to thank you for that." Daniel's expression softened, but there was pain behind his eyes. "We all did what we had to do. Some of us came home. Some didn't," Reed nodded, understanding. Then he looked at Ethan, smiling softly. "He's lucky to have you, sir." Daniel looked at his son, his world in that small frame of laughter and innocence. "No," he said quietly. "I'm lucky to have him. He gave me a reason to keep living." The days that followed changed everything. Reed personally recommended Daniel for a civilian advisory position on base, a role that would allow him to train young recruits, teach leadership, and honor those who never came back. Daniel accepted, not for recognition, but to give something back, to guide others so they might never lose themselves the way he once had. In the months that followed, the base grew quiet whenever Major General Brooks walked through the training grounds. Not out of fear, but out of deep respect. Every young soldier knew who he was. They watched the way he carried himself, humble, grounded, human. He became a symbol of what real strength looks like, not in medals or ranks, but in compassion, resilience, and the courage to keep going when life takes everything from you. On one golden evening, Daniel stood at the pier watching the sunset with Ethan sitting on his shoulders. The boy pointed at the horizon, whispering, "Mom would have liked this, right, Daddy?" Daniel smiled, his throat tightening as he nodded. "Yeah, buddy. She would have loved it." The waves shimmered like memories, and some painful, some beautiful, and in that moment Daniel knew that life doesn't end with loss. It begins again every time you choose to stand back up. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the unseen battles people fight every day, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs hope today. Special request. Comment below and tell us, what does real strength mean to you? Your words might just help someone find theirs.